Hey y'all, I'm Elisa, the Scrappy Wife behind ScrappyWife.com, and today let's talk about uppercase lettering. All right, so today we are going to dive into lettering the uppercase letters. In some cases, I feel like the uppercase letters are more fun. In some cases, I feel like they are more challenging. So let's talk through them. Let's just jump right in. We're going to start with the letter A. So the letter A, with the uppercase letters, again, you're going to start using the full range of the lines and sometimes even breaking the rules, which we'll talk about in a future video. But you might go above and below just to really emphasize. So for the letter A, you're going to start here at the bottom. You come up, light stroke, upstroke, and then a heavy downstroke, and then a release, and then you connect. So again, light, heavy, down. Personality from the letter A comes whether you have it more straight up, like this, or whether you tilt it. And then, of course, how you connect the two. Are you going to do a straight line across? Are you going to do a tilted line? That starts to give it your personality, your look. I tend to just do a little bit more straight lace, so mine tend to have a little wiggle, but be mostly horizontal. So that's the letter A. The letter B, I happen to very much enjoy. So the letter B starts with what I call the hook. So you're going to start in between the midline and the upper line, coming up, down with that heavy downstroke. You're going to have several letters that start this way, so that's a good stroke to practice over and over. Then you have right here, I'm again kind of starting midline right where this one is starting. So right here, light, heavy. I cut in pretty severe, and then I tend to move out. I don't start my next stroke from in here. I move out right to the midline, up, down. That's how I get my B. So I have the hook here, then I have this stroke that starts in the same place, and then I have this stroke that comes down. I connect the three, hook, down. You see the heavy downstroke, light upstroke. There, bring this out to here. That is how I tend to connect them, because I like this space right here. You can do one that's a little bit more rounded. So if you prefer this, see how that has kind of a different look. I like it a little bit more crunched up. That's just my personality. Then we go into the letter C. It's going to be just like the lowercase c. I start between the midline and the top line. I'm coming up, curve around, release. Up, curve around, release. It's going to be a pretty simple one. Up, curve around, release. C's. They're some of my favorites. They're pretty easy. They're so straightforward. I really, really like them. D. Okay. D is one of those letters where you have so many choices that I sometimes struggle. Let's start. So the D is going to start out with your basic downstroke, like so. This is where your first choice comes in. Do you want to loop like that, or do you not want to loop like that? If you choose to loop, almost like a little baby J, you're going to loop and then come back around. Loop, come back around. Not my favorite. So I actually like to do a downstroke, and then I come back up here and I come around, and I like my Ds like this. So downstroke, I come up here, loop around to here. I don't like the little loop at the bottom. It's a little too frilly, I guess, for me. I prefer, when I'm really getting into it, it's actually this look. It's like a line and an ear. Line. That's how I prefer to do my Ds. So you can experiment to see which one you like better. The other letter, or one of the other letters that I struggle with a lot, is actually the first letter of my very own name, and that would be the letter E. So with the letter E, there's some different options. Generally, what I do is I start between the midline and the top line. I'm going to loop here, and then bigger loop at the bottom. I like it to have a little bit of an unevenness, so I bring out that bottom loop down there. You can have them be perfectly even. That's not perfectly even. You can have them be super tilted. It's kind of up to you. You can also add a loop like that, a loop at the top, which is, I believe, how I learned it in cursive when I first started. I don't prefer it when I'm hand lettering. I prefer to simplify it like that. That is the letter E. The letter F, I happen to find to be super fun to letter. So I do have a loop on the loops versus the not loops. Again, that's going to be a personality thing. You can start with just your wave, up, down, and through. Up, down, up, all near the top line. Come to the middle, strong downstroke, loop, and then cross through to make it look like an F. You can add a loop right here, up, down, up. If you prefer, you can like super exaggerate that loop too and add extra frilliness. I tend to just do, for the letter F, I've just found that I prefer a little bit less of the loops, and that's okay because that's my personality and that's what I like. So you get to choose what you like. The letter G, I don't hand letter the letter G like you would write in cursive. So I tend to just write an uppercase letter G. So I come and do my curve just like a C, and then I just finish it off. So I actually print letter G's like this. And then I would start my next letter. So to me, it just makes more sense. I feel like to hand letter the letter G or to do it in cursive, it comes down, if I'm remembering that correct. But that doesn't look like the letter G to me, and it never did in cursive either. So I kind of mix up the two, and I prefer to just prefer to write the letter G. That's a preference thing. I feel like it's clearer. H is another fun one. You're going to have your hook down, and then connect. Hook down, connect. Something I like to do, the first one, I keep within the bounds. The second one, I go up and over the top line. So I like them to be uneven. In bounds, see, between the two blue lines, and the second one, uneven, goes up above. In bounds, uneven. In bounds, uneven. That's just how I like it. So that's the cool thing about hand lettering. You get to do it however you like to do. I is going to be a more traditional up, down. That's the letter I. Again, you can give yourself this I to start with. You can do a printed I, add a little curve to the top and bottom. It depends on how you like for it to look. And for me, it probably depends on what I'm lettering afterwards. So like the name is, well, let me break this down. Up, then you come down, and then you have your loop. That's how it's going to go. Up, down. Oops, sorry. I messed that up. You're going to come up, then you're going to come down, then you're going to have your finish. So up, down, with that full loop and finish. It depends on what the lettering is, but a lot of times I will opt for the capital letter I. Let's look at J's, one of my favorites again. Anything with lots of big loops that I can exaggerate as an uppercase letter is going to be something that I appreciate and really go for. So I'm going to start at the bottom, come up at the angle, heavy downstroke, and then around. Up at the angle, a heavy curve downstroke, and then around. Up at the angle, and around. I want the top to be bigger than the bottom. I don't want those to be even loops. But if you change that up, if you have this one be closed and this one be big, see, that gives it a different personality. You find what works best for you. So that would be the J. K's are also a lot of fun. Uppercase is fun. Uppercase in general is a lot of fun. It's hard to connect uppercase, obviously. I'm going to start with my hook, and then I come back up to the top, down, and I like the little curve out. So there's a couple options. You could come here, and then you could just do downstroke, downstroke. See the difference between the two? I do the hook, then I do this relatively straight, and then I do a little zig right there. So hook, downstroke, zig, because I think that gives it some beautiful personality. That's the letter K. L's are fun in lowercase and L's are fun in uppercase. I do start, it's one of the ones I do always start with a loop. So I start almost all the way at the upper line, maybe just underneath. I come down to loop, down there, and then loop again. This one is very frilly, and I'm here for it. So again, we're going to have our first loop, and we're going to come down, second loop, and finish. Small loop at the top, down, second loop, finish. Personality comes from how big your loops are. Are you going to exaggerate the loops? Are you going to exaggerate both the loops? Like that? Are you going to have closed loops? It kind of brings in your personality, which is what hand lettering is all about. It's not about doing it one right way. It's about finding the way that works for you. M's, again, another one I love because you can change it up. So starting between the midline and the top line, I have my hook. Then you would have another hook, another hook. That is the basic M. I change it up. So I have hook, and then generally I do a baby hook and exaggerated hook. So I tend to do 3 different hooks. First hook, standard, baby hook, mini, exaggerated hook, because it goes up above that top line. So when I connect them, I have hook, mini, exaggerated. Gives it more motion and energy going forwards, which is something I really enjoy. So deciding when you're going to break those rules, super important. Same thing with the letter N. As we come hook, and then I tend to do the exaggerated second hook. So if you break it down, it's your first hook, and then the second hook comes up above and drops below. That's how I do mine. That's how I connect it. Hook, up above, drop below, there. Same thing as I did with the lowercase letters. I do with the uppercase letters. O's are going to be similar to lowercase in that you start up here. Now, instead of between the midline and the baseline, you're starting between the midline and the top line. You're going to come up, around, and that could be your O. Up, around. Now, O's at the top, when I'm doing O's as a capital, I do tend to surpass, because again, I like breaking the rules and coming up above that top line. I like bringing it out. Now, do I always connect it through? No. Sometimes I just leave it like this. And that is completely up to you. But because I know I'm not going to draw a perfect circle for an O, I just lean into that. And I like do that as like I'm doing it on purpose, I guess you would say. For the letter P, we're going to start with that same hook. Hook. That's how I told you a lot of the letters start like that. And then loop. So basically, to me, it's a hook and then it's an ear. Half of a heart, you might say. I exaggerate the second half of the P. I like for it to go up above, and I like a severe slant. You can do something that is more within the lines, within the boundaries, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just really emphasize your downstrokes. I just prefer a little bit more of a slant, just like that. Q, I do a more classic Q in that I'm going to start with my circle and I will try to meet it up, and then I just come through like this. So it's here, basic circle. Sometimes I have trouble bringing up that light stroke. I just reconnect it, and then my little squiggle, and I'm going to bring them together. That is how I like Qs. When you get complicated and do a super fancy Q for an uppercase Q, well, that's a Z. But if you do the super fancy, like I just like this. I feel like this is cleaner. It looks good. That's not a Q. Okay, then we go into R. Same start. Do you see how important this start is? It's going to be just like a P. And then it's all about how you come out from the R. So you have your hook. You have your half heart. And then for me, I come up, down, out. Hook, half heart, up, down, out. There you go. Take your time on it. Pick out specifically where you're wanting to exaggerate your letters. S is going to be just like the lowercase s. You're just starting in a different place. So you're going to start between the midline and the top line, coming around. And then I very much like exaggerating and going below the line. If you don't go below the line, if you're keeping it all in here, that's totally fine. I just like exaggerating that. To me, it just feels good. Feels good. I could probably exaggerate it even more. Make it small at the top and then really go for it at the bottom. I find that interesting. So playing with the proportions and seeing which one you like better. I know I'm saying it over again. I sound like a broken record, but it's about what your preference is and what you feel comfortable with. If you're trying to emulate something you don't feel comfortable with, or that doesn't fit in with your normal styling of how you like to do things, then it's not really gonna like work. So you need to figure out what you like. Then we have the letter T. I start with the wave and then just a strong downstroke. So really light wave starting between the midline and the top line, up, down, up. That one's probably too much. And then stroke. It's very slight. I mean, you could get super fancy and do like, you know, a lot of flair. I just like it pretty simple for my letter T's. U. It's going to be just like the lowercase u. So you're starting at the top, down, up, down, there. So you can add a flare by coming here, down, up, down, flare. And this time the exaggeration is at the beginning. We were doing the exaggeration at the end of the letters. Now you can do it at the beginning. Add your extra little hook there and there. And that looks especially pretty if it's someone's name that you're starting out with, to add that little extra emphasis there at the beginning. So cool. Then we have the letter V. It's going to be similar to the U in that we're going to have that hook, but now the slant is just different. Before we brought it this way, now we're having a little bit more pointed at the bottom, and it's all about making that turn and having it be the pointy V. Like so. W is a bunch of U's together, but a little bit different. So you're going to start, Alexa, stop. Sorry. All right, so you're going to come around here. It's the beginning of your U. Now, instead of coming up here, you're going to start in the middle, up, release. So heavy, light, release. Heavy, light, release. Let's break it up. Heavy, light, release. So it's really 2 strokes in my opinion. Here and here. So fun. We are on X, similar to the lowercase x. I tend to start here, diagonal, and then I exaggerate the cross. I break the rules, go out of the lines. You don't have to. You could just stay within the lines. To me, the moments you're choosing to go out of the lines are your personality coming through. So again, you have your slant, and then that, kind of back and forth. Y, another fun one, starts very similar to the U, that you're coming around, but now that's the beginning. I come up here. I tend to do an extra little hook. So you could do this, you could come straight around, starts with just like the U. You could curve, add an extra little hook around. You could super exaggerate the bottom. See the differences? Again, find the version you like. For me, it's the hook at the beginning, medium on the bottom. Light. Now, a Z. You could do the fancy Z's. I feel like I left out HIJKLMNOPQRSTUVWXY. I guess not. All right, so we're going to come here. Z. So, big, down, loop. Breaking it up. Hook or half heart. Another half heart, loop. Half heart, loop. That's the fancy Z. You can always just write out the Z like you do in the lowercase, just depending on the style you're going for. A lot of times if it's starting a letter or starting a word like the word zoo, I will just do this. And that's how the hand lettering will go. So those are the uppercase letters broken down letter by letter. I hope that was helpful to you. Let me know what questions you have down in the comments below, and happy practicing.